Hi, I am going to do the AP Environmental Science Chapter 8, which is on human population. So I'm using this book. Alright, and it's Chapter 8 in here, and it's called Human Population. Alright, so I'm going to start off with some facts about human population. Currently, the world population is 6.5 million, or around there. There are about 78 million people born each year, which translates into 2.5 people per second. The growth rate peaked at 2.1% in the 1960s. Now it's 1.2%. Poor societies tend to have higher populations, higher population growth rates than wealthier ones. This is due to things like a lack of female empowerment, education, and access to family planning that we see in wealthier countries. And along with this, about 20% of the world's population uses about 80% of its resources. And this 80% or 20% of the world population is, of course, the wealthiest 20%. And this wealth gap creates many problems. Yes, okay. So, here are some here's the card, sorry. I'm just going to hold it here for a minute or two while I look for something else. Okay, hold on. Right, so things like empowerment of women, they can get jobs, they don't have as many kids, access to family planning so they can get contraception or abortions if they need it. Okay, and then also in wealthier countries, well, okay, we'll get to that, but wealthier countries also tend to consume more, even though they don't have as high of a growth rate. People want more quality instead of quantity, so. Okay, oh yeah, and the wealth gap also contributes to violence. You know, there's competition for resources in around the world, and so that often causes struggles, violent struggles. Okay. So next one. All right. Here are some names you should know related to this chapter. Thomas Malthus. And his idea was that population growth needs to be controlled, or it could lead to starvation, war, and disease, mainly for some of the factors that we talked about earlier just now. Okay. Sheldon Richman was a libertarian, and he thought that people will find a creative way to turn new things into resources. So he opposed Malthus's view. He didn't think population growth was a problem. Paul Ehrlich and John Holdren proposed something called the IPAT model, which is sort of an equation saying that population times affluence times technology equals the impact. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And Frank Notstein, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he proposed the concept of demographic transition, which we will also talk about later. Okay. So, the impact of human population. Oh, sorry, doing this. Okay, sorry. Here we go. Names you need to know. again, all of this is in the book. I don't know if you'll even be able to see this at all. Okay, you can always pause it and read it. Okay, so the impact of human population. So here's one where the IPAT model comes into place. As I said earlier, the I stands for impact, and that equals population, P, times affluence, A, times technology, T. Okay, and so that's fairly self-explanatory. So you take the amount of population times its wealth, and you multiply that by the amount of technology. And technology can have both negative consequences in that it creates pollution and more, stuff, more stuff that we have to dispose of somehow. But it can also help us create new solutions that reduce the impact of population and affluence and other technology. So technology can help and hurt. Just think of that. Rising population means that likely there will be a depletion of resources, intensified pollution, and degradation of ecosystems, and therefore quality of life suffers. Okay, finally I remembered. Alright, just pause it there if you need to. Okay, so demography. This is the longest one. Demography applies principles of population ecology to the statistical study of human populations. And it's a study of size, density, distribution, age structure, sex ratios, and rates of birth, death, immigration, and emigration, obviously within populations. The total fertility rate, TFR, is the average number of children a woman in a given population bears in her lifetime. So they can compare these TFRs across different countries, or they can do one for the world. And the, let's see. Okay, the replacement fertility is the total fertility rate that keeps the size of a population stable. For humans, it's 2.1. That doesn't necessarily mean it stays 2.1. So you can look at these different fertility rates for various countries, and you can see in Africa, it's, I don't know if you can actually see, it's 5.1. So Africa is, the high end, 5.1. And go all the way down to Europe, it's 1.4. So, and in North America, it's 2.0. So that's, you can tell that these are Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Asia. You can tell that those are not wealthy countries, for the most part, wealthy countries on those continents. And then in North America and Europe, they're wealthier. And Oceania is right there at 2.1, which I guess means there's not too much interference from other things, I guess. Okay, so yeah. Right, so that's the influence of wealth on the society, and it's kind of a circle, more wealth, fewer people, then maybe goes back up. Okay, I'm going to move on. Okay. Okay, so the total fertility rate can contribute greatly to changes in the size of the population, as we've demonstrated. The rate of fertility impacts the number of people born, which impacts the economy because, most old people, quote, maybe don't work anymore. And in order to keep the economy strong,